Good Tuesday afternoon to you. Welcome to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH. Pleasure to be with you. And we have the whole crew here, the entire crew. Mr. Dwight Millard of On Q Home Loans. Great to have you back, buddy.
It's great to be back, John. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you. Very good. Aaron Clark of Edgelity. Always good to have you, buddy.
Heck yeah, man. I'm ready to build some snowmen. You want to build a snowman?
Yeah, but just about feels that way, doesn't it?
I know.
I know. How can that be?
I know. I had to turn my heater on before we started the show so my teeth wouldn't be chattering.
I know. I had to turn mine off so it's not too loud. I did it on all day long. Golly, this is when I wish I had a wood burning stove in my office. I tell you, I was talking to my accountant and he does a couple hours ago. He goes, yeah, I got the wood burning stove.
Oh, that would be so nice. I'd fall asleep. I'd never get any work done.
Yeah, a little couch in there.
Yeah. I got the couch. I just don't have the wood burning stove. All right. Well, let's tell you what we have lined up for you. I'm going to bear with me here because we just had some breaking news literally as the music was playing. The president has extended the ceasefire with Iran, and I'm trying to... Matter of fact, if one of you, Aaron, if you don't mind, if you could just quickly look and see on CNBC.com as the breaking story, see if you can come up with a date because I'm not able to find one and I need to keep the show flowing. So if you could do that for me, nothing like live radio here, right? You get to hear everything, folks. Let me tell you what we have lined up after I go through the stock market recap. Bit of a weakness today because of the ceasefire coming to an end, or at least it was, like I said, until a few moments ago. We had a bit of a weak session today. So I want to, of course, give you all the details as to what happened. Then we're going to get into our topic. This is going to be a really, really fun topic and something we haven't discussed in quite some time. You know, we would all agree that home prices are high, inventory is tight, and of course, many of you have made the big decision. You said, you know what? I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to pay these exorbitant prices. I'm not going to go through all the headaches of moving. Instead, we're going to stay put. We're going to stay right where we are. But if you're going to stay, should you remodel, right? That seems to be the consolation that a lot of people are making these days. I have more people. The reason I came up with this topic, I've had more people I've talked to over the last, we'll call it the last month, saying exactly this. They're going through home remodels. They decided to stay. And I thought, you know what? If they're doing it, probably many of you in the audience are. But, you know, if you do decide to stay and you do decide to remodel, here's the $1 million question. How are you going to pay for it, right? I was just talking with a friend yesterday, Dwight, actually day before yesterday, and on Sunday, and he was like flabbergasted, for lack of a better term, of just the painting bids that he got. He's like, yeah, this one painting company, pretty good sized contractor in Reno, $150 an hour coming in, and then all kinds of additional costs and stuff. And, you know, a little tiny job was like $12,000, $13,000. And he says, I can't afford to do that. So what am I going to do? You know, again, this is going on. So you got to figure out a way you're going to pay for it. And then Aaron, so Dwight's going to handle that side of it, obviously, and educate us on what programs are out there that we can pay for these home remodels. Excuse me. And then Aaron's going to jump in and really inform us on something extremely important, which is what is the ROI on the home improvement? In other words, the return on investment, right? Last thing you want to do is spend all the time and the frustration and obviously the money renovating. Sure, there's always going to be something that you want just for yourself that you can't put a price tag on, right? It may make no financial sense whatsoever, but you're never going to get a return if you decide to sell that house a year from now. But again, it gives you personal satisfaction. That's worth a lot. But we're not going to go down that path. What Aaron is going to do is share with us what's going to be the best ROI. You know, is it going to be a bathroom remodel, a kitchen? If so, what are the different things we need to do in there? Because this is always a moving target, right,
Always.
Aaron? I mean, I remember years ago, you know, obviously granite was the hot thing. Everybody wanted to do granite in the bathroom and the living room or in the kitchen. And I think it may have been Corey or Richard Lay saying, that's really not the hot thing anymore. I remember, you know, I don't know, that was months ago. So I don't know if that's changed back to it or not, but you know, that's where your expertise comes in. Cause you know, you walk through a house and you go, yep, this is worth a lot, or this is not worth, and it, you know, so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to figure out how to pay for it and then give you the best ROI on that home improvement. Aaron, were you able to find anything on the ceasefire?
Yeah, I did. And what it's saying on here now is that it's not a specific time frame. He just said,
okay,
until such a time as Iran's leaders and representatives submit a unified proposal to end the war with the U.S. and Israel.
That's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting. So we have an indefinite ceasefire. I'm going to take, yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to venture and say the futures are up, and boy, are they ever. Dow futures just started trading at 3 o'clock, now up 171 points. Nasdaq's are up 103, and the S&Ps are rising 25. So there you go, an indefinite ceasefire. So obviously a very positive for the markets. So that's interesting. Oil's ticking up just a little bit right now, up 31 cents at 89.98 a barrel. All right, you're now up to date. Like I said, that's breaking story. What is it lately, guys? It seems like we keep getting breaking stories literally when
It's
the
always on the
intro
show,
music
yeah.
to the show is begin. Yeah, it's like makes for great radio,
Yeah.
but man, what is it about 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 p.m. Eastern where all these news stories come from that seems to ring the bell there? I don't know. It's crazy. Dwight, anything you want to add in before I get started on the stock market recap?
No, I think the timing, as always, John, is fantastic on this because there is a lot of frustration. And I told you off air, and I don't know if Aaron was listening. I mean, I got certified in the renovation space now, which we'll talk
Congratulations.
about because
Good time.
it's an amazing product for people to look at. As at least
Is it
one-
really?
Oh yeah, at least as one of their options.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, congratulations on getting certified in that. And added to the
Took me a little
added
while.
to the at our age, it always does, Dwight. I know.
What did I just
It's like,
read?
yeah, exactly. Let me read it for the 5th time today, please. Yeah. Well, good stuff. Like I said, I had no idea that happened. So again, great timing. All right, let's break down, guys, what happened in the stock market today. So we had a decent session going. Matter of fact, we were up a couple hundred points going into the opening bell, and everything looked fine. And again, kind of using the analogy that I gave on the show yesterday, just kind of a wait and see type of attitude. Again, a lot of this was waiting and seeing on the ceasefire side of things today. Trump was on CNBC this morning, didn't have anything negative whatsoever to say, kind of all the typical threats and so on and so forth. The market really didn't react to that. But we just kind of drifted. And then, Dwight, I'm sure I don't know about you, Aaron, but Dwight, I'm sure you probably were, watching on again, off again, the Senate confirmation hearing of Kevin Warsh, our potential new Fed chairman, if and when he gets confirmed. This is going to be so interesting. That's all I can say. It's going to be so interesting when he gets into the office because, as all three of us know, and I'm sure all of you know, he was handpicked, of course, by President Trump, right? We know that the president absolutely hates Jerome Powell. He's got this lawsuit going against him for the budget overruns on the rehab of speaking of rehabs, of the Treasury building. And Trump was on CNBC. He goes, I could have done that renovation for $25 million. And instead it's like $2 billion and climbing. And matter of fact, they're not even going to have insulation in the walls. I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? But he just ranted on and on and on about that. So we get to the confirmation hearing today with Kevin Warsh, and that was brought up a lot, of course. But more importantly, he was asked by the members of the banking committee, where are you going to be on interest rates and Fed independence and that type of thing? And he, of course, gave the right answer, which I don't know if he meant it in his heart or not, but he gave the right answer. The Fed, I cherish the Fed. Remember, he was a Fed governor for, long time. I don't know, 6-7 years, I think, something like that. I think 2011, he stopped being a Fed governor. So he knows what goes on behind the closed doors. But he just went on to say, yep, Fed independence is important and so on and so forth. And going back to Trump this morning, which was before the Senate hearing commissions, Trump made the comment, he goes back to this renovation. He goes, yeah, this thing is going so slow and so far over budget. He goes, Kevin may have an office right next to mine. And Joe Kernan, the host on CNBC, says, well, I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea. So you kind of sit there and go, yeah, can you imagine Trump poking his head through the window? Or,
Yeah.
I remember in one of my offices, my operations manager, I had a window in between my office and her office. So I could just sit there and, scream at her, when I needed to and just close the window.
You're dropping rates yet? You're dropping rates yet?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
How many accounts did you open today? So, can you imagine Trump doing something like that? I think that'd be pretty hilarious, but it's going to be interesting. Everybody knows that he is going to be under severe pressure, Dwight, to lower interest rates. The data that we've been receiving these last, we'll call it the last week or so, absolutely does not dictate that the Fed would be in any hurry to raise interest rates. I think it was when I did my recap on Friday, I think we're up to, 35% probability of one cut in December. I mean, it's like next to nothing at this point. So we will see. But my point of all this long drawn out story is when Warsh was going through this confirmation hearing today, The streets takeaway was, again, he's in no hurry to cut interest rates. So that's when we started to see the pressure happen on the market. That, and then oil prices were, I mean, geez, we're up over $4 at our worst level, finished up $2.40 to 91.80 a barrel. So a little uptick there. The ceasefire, like I said. So, this is just a kind of a culmination of things today, none of which really was all that positive. When it was all said and done, we finished, like I said, a little bit on the downside, down 293 on the Dow, 0.59% loss. Nasdaq gave up 144 points, 0.59%, and the S&P lower by 45 points, a 0.63% decline. But hey, that was the closing bell. And like I said, in the pre-market session, we're looking strong, 171 gain right now on the Dow futures. Alrighty, I'll come back, hit the commodity side of things, interest rates. Always my favorite part, going with Dwight and talking about where we are in the 30-year mortgage. And then we're going to get into our topic, stay or move, the smart way to remodel your home with Aaron and Dwight. Let's turn it over to Kristen Snow. She's in the Right Now Traffic Center. Hello, Kristen. Welcome back to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH with Aaron Clark of Edge Realty, Dwight Millard of OnQ Home Loans. Once again, we finished with a loss of 293 on the Dow. Nasdaq gave up 144. S&P lower by 45. But once again, the breaking news that occurred right when the show was beginning. I want to bring you up to date. We got a little bit more information. Again, the president posting on True Social that he has announced he is extending a ceasefire with Iran indefinitely. Remember, that ceasefire was supposed to end tomorrow, even as plans for a fresh round of talks between the two countries fell apart. Remember, J.D. Vance was supposed to be on a plane right now heading over there, and Iran said, no, we're not coming to the table. So I want to give you just a few more details. Trump said that the U.S. would maintain a blockade over ships coming to and from Iran in the Strait of Hormuz until Iran submits a new proposal and discussions are concluded. The extension of the ceasefire was requested by Pakistan, which had mediated between the two sides and asked the U.S. to hold off on fresh strikes. Now, here's what's interesting. Again, take it with a grain of salt if you want, because it's coming out of Iran. Don't know what we can or cannot believe. But Iran news agency just came out just a few moments ago. Let me try to find it in this big story. News agency came out and said they did not ask for the ceasefire. And they said that the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until negotiations occur. So let's see. Yeah, and then this Bloomberg article that I'm reading from now commented again what I'd said earlier about Trump being on CNBC this morning. And this is what the president said this morning. He said, I expect to be bombing if Iran didn't meet his conditions or my conditions. And he said the military is, quote, raring to go. In a telephone interview later today, he said it was, quote, highly unlikely that I extend the cessation of hostilities if no deal is reached. So I guess highly unlikely means it's probable, because he did extend the ceasefire. And again, this is bizarre, guys. Extend it indefinitely. Do you know what investors are going to look at this?
Right.
How they're going to perceive this? Like, okay, this thing is done. We're just going to continue on forever, until he decides not to. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, now the next move will probably be, again, he'll come back and, one day, and probably very soon, and say, okay, ceasefire is over, right? You got 24 hours to come to the table. If not, then we're gonna start it again. I got to admit, this is very bizarre to extend a ceasefire indefinitely, even as plans for a fresh round of talks between the two countries fell apart. So we will see. But, like I said, pre-market liking it. Up 189 on the Dow futures. Nasdaq's up 117. S&P is gaining 28. All righty, boys. Let's get down just a couple movers. Let's go to oil, as I mentioned, up $2.40 is how it closed today, 91.80 a barrel. Gold down $111, $4,719.10 an ounce. Mr. Millard, little bump up in 10-year, 4 basis points, 429. How'd we do on the 30-year?
Yeah, John, I expected it to be worse, but we got out of it pretty good. It was only a 3 basis point uptick in the 30-year fix to 6.33, according to Mortgage News Daily. It's stubbornly high. We were experiencing such great traction and activity 5-6 weeks ago, when we were talking about when we were flirting
pre-war. Just a minute. It was pre-war.
Going inside of the 6%. So it's been challenging for a lot of people, but
absolutely,
they get used to it, and then they see a little bit of a, improvement, and then they ready to run, and then it goes back. So it's kind of it's a very emotional time for some of these people. Yeah.
Same old story. Yeah. Man, oh man. All right. There's pretty good movements going on today on a few names I just want to mention real quickly. Microsoft up $6.09. That was a good mover, 424.16. Apple, they don't seem to be liking this news that came out yesterday where Tim Cook's going to step down on September the 1st. Apple lost $6.88, 266.17. United Health was a star today. Really strong earnings numbers. The Dow component up $22.53, 346.01. GE Aerospace down about $16.87, 5.56%. So it's just kind of mixed. Like I said, it was just a day where everyone was kind of waiting to see what happened on the ceasefire situation. So I wish Trump would announce this when the market was open. That would have been
Yeah,
really nice if
exactly.
that happened. All right, guys, let's get into our topic. Stay or move. Once again, what we're going to do for you. Many of you, again, are saying, I don't want to move for high prices, high mortgage rates, whatever the situation may be. You decide to stay where you are, but yet you're like, okay, I can't live in this house anymore. We need to expand it. We need to fix it up. Whatever it is you want to do, it is going to take a lot of money. Just be prepared. It is not cheap to hire contractors any longer. So what Dwight is going to do, he's going to start us off and start educating us on how do we get our hands on some money to pay for these remodels. And then we're going to go way beyond your typical home equity line of credit, et cetera. So Dwight, let's start with you. Then when we come back later in the program, Aaron's going to be chiming in and saying, okay, guys, in today's world, here we are, 2026, these are the best improvements you can make in your home for the best ROI or return on investment. So Dwight, get us warmed up here on this because we got about 2 minutes before break, and then we'll come back and continue on with you.
Yeah. So I mean, the obvious one, John, that we've talked so often on this show is the standard home equity line of credit. The challenge with that, obviously, is it's going to be another payment, on top of what you currently have. I like it for the benefit if you have a lot of equity, but you have a limited amount of repairs or additions or whatever you're going to do, and it's in scope. Maybe it's a great one because you just get the money, get it paid for. You keep your current interest rate. I'm going to make the assumption that most people have sub 4, so it's a wonderful way to do it. The other one you have is you have just a straight cash out refinance. The problem with that one, generally speaking, is you're going to trade off
back to the rate.
You're gonna trade off your interest rate right now for a single loan. The problem with that too is they only go to 80%. So cash out refinance only goes to 80%. So the other thing about that one, you don't have as much flexibility as you do on the HELOC, because the HELOC, you only pay for what you draw off of. Remember, in the HELOC, it's interest only for the first 10 years of the draw period, depending on the lender. So it's a very flexible, especially if you just need, if you're going to do a minor kitchen repair or things like that. I think Aaron would say, yeah, go in, grab a quick HELOC, pay it off, and, no harm, no foul. The one that I think I'm going to be more supportive on, John, is the Renovation. And the reason why is I got to learn a lot about this product over the last week and a half. It's an amazing, a lot of flexibility on it in terms of what you can do. So there are limited scope renovations and full, where you got to get, it looks like a construction loan. The beautiful part about the Renovation is it goes all the way up to the maximum loan to values for that product. So on FHA, it'll go all the way up to a 97% loan to value. And what it does is it takes the current value of your home, then it does plus the renovations. So if the renovations are, let's say the house is 300, the renovation's 100, you're going to say that's going to be a $400,000, price tag to that. Though you're going to get an appraisal independent, and it's going to be subject to the completion of that. I'm doing one right now, John, and the appraisal came in, we were thinking maybe 480, it came in at 565 with the improvements. So the guy is thrilled. Doesn't need that much money, but it just made a lot things better.
So the appraisal, you're saying the appraisal is almost like what I think Aaron, you and I were talking about last week on the commercial real estate side, where, again, commercial real estate's valued not on comps, because usually there are none, but more on here's the value of the property, here's the income that it's producing. And then again, if you are going to add certain things to that commercial building, they will give that to you in the appraisal, even though it has not been built. So you're saying the same thing, Dwight.
Yeah, and you need the cost, the bids, you got to know what it is. The appraiser gets all of that. It's a mini construction loan basically type of thing. You've got to get all that stuff, but it is a fantastic way, John. It goes all the way up to 95% on conventional.
Okay.
I mean, you're not going to get any money any easier than that doing a single loan, 95% incorporating all your costs in it.
So what would be the maximum dollar amount?
Well, I mean, it's the conforming loan limits, which goes up to 830, but I mean, you can go up to 95%. Basically,
830 if you're in that area.
Based on the future value subject to the improvements being done.
So Aaron's advice is going to be really valuable, right? Because again, I would imagine the appraiser is going to go certain value for this improvement or renovation, but not full value for another one. Am I right on that?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. What's that product called, Dwight?
It's just a renovation. There's conventional renovation and FHA and VA. All your majors have it. So
There's
fantastic
got to be some
product to at least
there's
explore.
there's got to be some negatives to it. This is
I don't
sounds
think
way
so.
too easy.
I mean, I mean,
No?
no.
Okay.
I mean,
I was gonna say, but when we
it's
come back from
current
break,
rates.
but
It's current rates.
okay.
You know, so if you've got a lower rate, then but hey, how else are you going to pay for it?
Okay, I got some questions, but I'm
I
out
know
of
you
time. I'll come back to it. It's like, this was too easy. All right, we'll come back to that. We're talking about renovating, how to pay for it, and what's good ROI. Let's turn it over to Jack Saban. He's got news, traffic, and weather. Jack. Welcome back to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH with Aaron Clark of Edgerly, Dwight Millard of OnQ Home Loans. All right, once again, the big breaking news that happened right at the beginning of the show. The president announced that he is indefinitely extending the ceasefire with Iran. Talks never occurred. They were supposed to occur tomorrow, ahead of the deadline, tomorrow evening. And the president came out, like I said, right around 3 o'clock and said, nope, I'm extending it indefinitely, but the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. Iran saying, we didn't ask for this, and we'll determine when the Strait of Hormuz is going to open, but it's closed in our minds. Again, futures are up 180 on the Dow side. NASDAQ's up 116. The S&P is gaining 28. All right, let's get to our topic again. We're talking about stay or move, right? The smart way to remodel your home. Continuing his discussion, and then Aaron's going to jump in talking about what's the best ROI that we can get, return on investment on the home improvements. But Dwight, I got a couple questions on this. How do you want me to refer to this
Renovation
loan?
Renovation.
Just a renovation
Yeah,
loan.
they've been around forever, but as we talked off air, they've been very difficult, not user friendly. You know, companies come in and out with them, but these are here to stay. So they're
okay. Very good. So let's use an example. You got a $400,000 house. Let's say you've been in there 5 years. You don't really have a lot of equity to do a cash out refinance or even a home equity line of credit. So that's when you'd look to this renovation type of loan. Now you're going to come in and you're going to take out my existing loan, right? Again, my let's say, you know, the house is worth 400. I owe 350 on it because I haven't been there that long. But boy, I want to go add a fourth bedroom for $100,000. So you're going to give me a current appraisal plus what that fourth bedroom is going to enhance my value, and then you're going to give me 90% of that new figure.
No, I'm going to give you 95. I can go up to 95 on the future value with the completion of the improvements. So let's just say you're 400 and 100. Let's just say it comes in at 500. I can give you a 95% off of that. So I can give you a 475. You know, which is basically 75,000, right, towards the the construction.
And so that's going to be, again, just a traditional 30-year.
Yep. A traditional 30, 15. You have conventional FHA and VA. VA goes all the way up to 100%. So I mean, these are just, you know, they've been around forever, John. They're becoming more and more of a niche, but they're becoming more and more popular because of
what we're talking about. People
rising cost. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I've decided to kind of get in this space and, you know, and be able to offer it to, I think the segment's going to grow more and more, these.
Yeah, I agree. Aaron, come in with your realtor hat on. Give me the pros and cons from your perspective. Pretend Dwight's not here right now. Is this is this a major boom? Is this a major boom for people?
That's a tough one because right now what we're seeing is, you alluded to earlier, the cost to do anything right now is at the highest we've seen in a very long time. So to me, the only controversial thing, the part that we would really struggle with making sure that it aligned, would be if a contractor comes in and says, okay, I'm going to redo your kitchen for whatever cost it is. The appraiser is going to have to utilize that information to justify that future value. But, you know, you look at a bid and maybe 40%, 30% is material. The rest is labor. You're not getting like realized value out of that.
That's my
making
point.
sure that would align would be something you'd have to be very strategic about. You'd really have to look at comparable sales in the neighborhood, what the comparables between upgraded versus not upgraded, et cetera.
Okay, Dwight, I'm going to snap my fingers. You're back with us now. So how do you overcome that? Because I think that's a valid point that Aaron brings from a realtor's perspective.
Well, John, that's why you've got to do your due diligence up front and kind of understand, because a pool or a kitchen remodel, things like that, they're all going to have a difference value, which is what you noted earlier. Hey, this becomes even more important all the way around for whatever you do. If you stay, whether you get a HELOC, whether you do a cash out refinance, or whether you look into the renovation loan, they all serve a good purpose, and you've got to do your due diligence up front. At least get some bids, multiple bids, you know, whatever you've got to do to at least tighten that down, because we all can agree it's going to probably overrun. right? That we can all probably
So
agree
the
to.
appraiser is obviously extremely, probably even more so than normal, extremely important in this whole equation there. Would you recommend what Aaron just said stuck in my mind? Again, you're looking 40-50% at the tops material cost on a bid, rest of it's labor cost. Is he going to give you the value, for that full $100,000 bid, or is he going to go, no, it's only 40,000 materials, so I'm only going to give you
Well,
40,000?
that's a good one to bring in Richard Lace someday and
Yeah.
see how
Yeah.
he would look at that bid process and things like that. And again, it would be helpful, John, in any scenario to have some equity position.
Yeah.
If you're already at your max, if you just bought the house, last week at a 5% down, it's going to be tough to do 100 and get 100 out of it. So but this is going right to your point. These are people who've been in their house who've now for a while now of considering, should I move? I'm just going to stay now. They probably have some equity that can help offset whatever may be lacking in a full appraisal.
I know you can't give us a specific, but to say, yeah, they're real close. What's the difference in APR right now for, say, a renovation loan, because we were essentially getting a brand new mortgage, versus just a traditional
The same.
plain Jane? They're the same. Okay.
That's what blew me away. Okay, you might see an eighth different in the rate. Maybe. So it's really an affordable product. To what Aaron was saying, earlier on, these were just tougher in the days.
I was just going to say too, it's important too when looking at these that because I've had clients over the years consider this aspect of doing something like an equity line or this or that or the other to do improvements. You want to look at what you could buy, what the cost of that loan is going to be, what the payment's going to be to fulfill the need of what you need versus the cost of doing the refi, taking the 6 months that it's going to take to get the plans, the contractor, living halfway in your house because you might be doing all this work, and then what the end result's going to be. And then having all of that data, then you have options. You can do a reno loan, you can do an equity line, or you might just look at all of it, scrap the whole thing, and go, the numbers are pretty similar, but the drama, the emotional distress is so much less if I was just to move because what I need is too extreme for me to want to process and deal with. So you really got to sit down, have everything planned out, and then decide what's best for you and your family.
And that's, again, where Dwight's expertise, your
Absolutely.
expertise come into play. Yep. Back to the team. Okay, guys, let's transition. So Dwight, great information. Congratulations on, again, getting certified in this area now. Aaron, so let's keep your realtor hat on, obviously. Let's go through some things you like to see as a realtor. You're walking into a house and you're like, I like that. That's good for, ROI. That one's a waste of time. So let's say let's do a hypothetical. Let's say you're walking into a newly renovated home and the people spent whatever, $100,000, and pick your issue, bathrooms, kitchen, whatever the case may be. What do you like? What do you dislike in today's marketplace?
So first thing, kitchen. Kitchen's always the first thing to be seen. It's the first thing that when everybody comes over to your house, they see. So it's the one thing that if you're gonna dump money into, that's where you're gonna do it to get the most bang for your buck. And when I say that, I don't mean a full gut job, new cabinets, new everything. Now we're at $100,000. I'm saying we find the valuable things that we can do. Are the cabinets great?
Such
Like
as?
the cabinets, for example, let's say they're great boxes. We can get them refaced. We can get them painted. We can get them cleaned up real good, put some hardware on them, and then just replace the countertops and the floors. And boom, you have almost like and new appliances, and you have almost a brand new kitchen that no one would know the difference on. And the cost for you is going to be 20% of doing a gut job. So you want to figure out exactly where you're going to get the most bang for the buck. And it's going to be kitchen, and it's going to be doing those things that are least expensive, not replacing every little nook and cranny.
All right. When we come back, I want to hit one of the biggest expenses in a kitchen remodel, which of course is the countertops, right? It's a big one. So let me tell you, I want you to tell us, let me tell you, you tell us, what do you like to see? What's holding the value right now, the best ROI? All right. We'll continue our discussion. Again, stay or move, the smart way to remodel your home. Let's wrap it up with Kristen Snow. She's in the Right Now Traffic Center. Hello, Kristen. Welcome back to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH. Mr. Millard, can we get your phone number, sir?
Yes, sir. 240-2022.
My friend, Mr. Aaron Clark.
673-6700.
Beautiful. All right, we've been talking about stay or move, the smart way to renovate your homes. Okay, so Dwight just enlightened us on a great new renovation, quasi-new, I guess, a great renovation loan that's available. One more time, Dwight, the highlights of that.
Yeah, it just goes up to 95 max loan to values on the FHA, conventional, and VA. So it gives you much more borrowing power.
And who's your target market on this? One more time.
I think it's people looking to do a major remodel, a major renovation, things like that. I think that at least consider it as part of the.
Okay. And the pros and cons versus a HELOC?
Well, the HELOC's going to have more flexibility. You pay what you borrow. It's going to be another payment to it. It's going to, they're limited in scope. I mean, in terms of.
And they're usually interest only too.
Yeah, they're interest only for the draw period, and then they convert into it. So, I mean, it's not a wrong one either. There's no right or wrong. I think it really just depends on the scope of work to be done.
Yeah. And dollar value, right? And dollar value.
Exactly.
The renovation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron. So you said, definitely your best ROI on this remodel is going to be in the kitchen. The question I pose to you now: where are we at? Are we back to granite? Are we Formica? Where are we?
I think number
ROI
one is quartz, especially in today's
okay.
world. One of the losses or negative effects is that it can be damaged by heat. But other than that, you pretty much don't have to do anything with it. And then there's another sort of material emerging that's engineered, which is called quartzite. And it's like an engineered version of it, so it looks like marble, but it still needs to be sealed like granite. And granite is slowly dwindling just because technologies are changing. And I have granite in my kitchen. It's like,
I know.
I thought that was really cool, but not anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Pain in the butt.
Exactly.
It's, the ceiling and absolutely. Okay, so you were saying just resurface the cabinets, new appliances.
So it's value orientation, not necessarily gutting anything. Where's the most bang for the buck?
Right, exactly. And once again, if you just joined us, let's preface this by saying there are certain things that you're going to want to do since you decide to stay in the house that, again, forget about the ROI. It's just going to give you, absolute pleasure. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, what's our next spot real quick?
It's going to be bathrooms. Bathrooms are huge. Okay. That's it pretty much.
What do you want to
see? You always want to start where people are going to be visiting and seeing the overall appearance of the house. And you want to do clean, modern bathrooms with, updated, right now, just clean, crisp, simplicity, master, large showers. That's huge. If you go to any builder and walk through the models, the showers are the size of football fields now. So those are becoming popular. It's so longer the small showers with the small tub and the combos.
Yes.
If you can't play catch when you're in the shower, it's too small, right?
Exactly. And you want to see the tile in
there? Yeah, it's tile. You not the big plastic inserts. You see in the
double sinks important.
Double sinks in a master are 100%. Yep. You want to make sure that you have double sinks and lots of counter space. Sometimes even now they're splitting them up. So you have one sink on one side of the room, one sink on another. It's just so you get that separation. So then you don't throw stuff at each other when you're getting ready to go to bed.
There you go. All right, what's our next spot?
And then curb appeal is going to be huge. You want somebody to drive up and see the house and go, wow, that looks nice, well taken care of. So spend a little money on landscape. Again, little money can go a long way if you do things right and you're making sure that you're investing in stuff.
Do you have to have grass these days?
No, absolutely not. Grass, more and more as Californians come in where they don't really get to have grass, more and more you're seeing grass disappearing. Low maintenance,
or the xeriscape.
Yeah. No water bill.
Okay. All right.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then real quickly, 10 seconds here. What about the master bedroom?
Master bedroom, not so much because of the bathroom, but what can you do? I mean, carpet, paint, a chandelier. Right. Sure. Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Not a lot has changed. Yeah. Same type of stuff. Just kitchen, bathroom. That's about it. Simple enough. Dwight, we can spend that $100,000 pretty easy though.
Easy.
On that side of it.
Easy.
Yeah.
Listen to that. All righty, fellas. Excellent job as always. We will do it again tomorrow on the Jon Sanchez Show. God bless. Have a great afternoon.
Jon Sanchez is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by Sanchez Gaunt Capital Management, LLC on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of News Talk 780 or its parent company, Cumulus Media. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. Dwight Millard, NMLS ID number 241259, a licensed mortgage loan officer with Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited and Equal Housing Lender. NMLS ID number 134871. The information shared on this live broadcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute financial or mortgage advice. Listeners should consult directly with a licensed mortgage professional for guidance tailored to their specific situation. All loans are subject to credit approval and program guidelines. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan terms and availability may vary by state and are subject to change without notice. Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited is licensed in multiple states. For a full list of state licenses and disclosures, please visit https://www.highlandsmortgage.com/licenses/. The views expressed during this program are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited.